Arrival on Earth, a mission of peace, and danger. The sky over New York City turned silver at noon. It started as a small dot in the clouds, then grew larger and brighter. Within minutes, a massive alien ship appeared, floating silently above the skyline. People stopped walking, cars stopped moving, news channels went live. Some people ran. Others pointed their phones at the sky. This was the day the world changed. The ship did not fire weapons. It did not send warnings. Instead, a small circle opened under the ship. From it, a glowing platform descended slowly. On the platform stood a tall, blue-skinned alien in golden robes. His name was Zerak. He was the ambassador of the Solari people. Zerak was not alone. Behind him stood a human in black armor, holding no weapons, but wearing a sharp look in his eyes. That was Jack Riker, a former soldier now working for the Earth Alliance as a personal bodyguard. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. His job was to protect Zerak, not to look friendly. As the platform touched the ground near the United Nations building, cameras zoomed in. Zerak stepped forward, raising one hand in peace. "I come to speak, not to rule," he said, his voice soft but clear. "We bring knowledge, not war." The crowd remained silent. Then came a few claps. Then more. But in the shadows of tall buildings, someone else was watching. Not clapping, just waiting. 3 hours later, inside a private security room, Riker stood by Zerak's side. They were in a tall glass building preparing for the official welcome dinner. "I don't trust this," Riker said, looking out the window. "You rarely do," Zerak replied calmly, adjusting his robe. Riker glanced at the alien. "That's why I'm still alive," Zerak smiled. "And why I feel safe with you." Outside, the city prepared for the night event. World leaders were arriving. Lights were being tested. Food was being served. Everything looked perfect. But Riker felt something strange. He pressed a small button in his ear. "Team, scan every guest. Watch hands. Watch eyes." Down on the street, hidden among the crowd, a man in a black suit pushed through the people. He looked like anyone else, but he wasn't. Under his coat, he carried a small pulse gun, illegal on Earth. His eyes kept moving. He was getting closer. Inside the event hall, the music started. Zerak stepped up to the podium to speak. Cameras focused on him. Riker stood behind, scanning the crowd. Then he saw him, one man, moving fast. His hand went inside his coat. Riker shouted, "Down!" Zerak ducked just in time. A loud zit sound broke the air. The pulse gun fired, but it missed. Riker jumped over the table, tackled the shooter, and knocked the weapon from his hand. Guests screamed. Security moved in. The attacker hit Riker once, but Riker hit back harder. The man fell unconscious. Zerak stood, calm but serious. He looked at Riker. "That was not random." "No," Riker said, breathing hard. "It wasn't." Later that night, in a quiet room, Riker watched the security footage. The attacker had entered with fake ID. He avoided cameras. He knew the building. He had training, Riker said to his commander over the call. "Maybe a terrorist," the commander replied. Riker shook his head. "No, he moved like military. One of ours." On screen, he paused the video. In one frame, the attacker looked up directly at the camera and smiled. "That's a message," Riker said. "Someone wants us to know this wasn't a mistake." Outside the building, news reporters called Riker a hero. But inside, he felt something cold. Zerak stood beside him, watching the same footage. "You are right to worry," Zerak said. "This was only the beginning." Riker turned to him. "How many more are coming?" Zerak's eyes glowed softly. "Enough to break your world, if we don't stop them first." The bodyguard's instincts. The night after the attack wasn't silent. Far above the sleeping city, drones buzzed through the sky, scanning for threats. Inside a high-security tower, Jack Riker sat alone in a dark room, watching the same few seconds of footage again and again. The attacker's face, that faint smile, that trained movement. Something didn't add up. People outside were calling it an assassination attempt by a radical alien-hating group. But Riker's instincts told him this was deeper. Cleaner, professional. This wasn't hate. It was strategy, and strategy always had a plan. Earlier that evening, Ambassador Zirek had returned to his private floor. The Solari didn't believe in fear, they believed in understanding. But Riker noticed Zirek had started wearing a small, force field device under his robes. Quietly, "I'm not afraid," Zirek had told him. "But I am not foolish either." Riker respected that. Zirek was smart, but Riker knew intelligence wasn't always enough. Bullets didn't care how wise you were. Now Riker's ears caught a sound, barely audible. A soft tick, 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 not a machine, not footsteps, a message. He pulled out a small comms chip from the desk. It was blinking. Someone had bypassed the secure network and dropped a message onto his private channel. Only one person had that kind of access. He pressed play. A distorted voice spoke. Male, cautious, afraid. "They're not done. The first attack was just noise. The real one comes in 3 days. They'll blame the aliens. You need to get them out of there. And Riker, don't trust your own people." The message ended with static. Riker sat still for a long moment. He looked out the window. The city sparkled like nothing was wrong, but something was very wrong. 3 hours later, Riker met with the Earth Security Council. They sat around a round table, 11 officials in black suits, cold faces. The head of the council, Director Marnes, spoke first. "We've confirmed. The attacker had links to a human supremacist group called Earth First. Case closed." Riker placed a file on the table. "No. This guy had elite training. He fought like Black Ops. He knew where our cameras were. He got past 3 checkpoints. Earth First doesn't have that kind of skill." Marnes didn't blink. "Are you saying we're hiding something?" "I'm saying," Riker said carefully, "we've got a ghost inside our house." Another member spoke up. "You've been too close to the alien. Maybe your loyalty is blurred." Riker leaned forward. "My loyalty is to peace. And if you ignore this threat, you're not just risking an ambassador, you're risking war." They ended the meeting early. Riker walked out, feeling their eyes follow him. Not in respect. In suspicion. That night, he stood on the balcony outside Zirak's room. The alien stood beside him, looking up at the stars. "My people once feared humans," Zirak said quietly, "but I told them Earth was ready." Riker didn't answer. "I was wrong, wasn't I?" Zirak asked. Riker sighed. "You weren't wrong. But not everyone on this planet wants peace. Some people make money from fear." Zirak turned his glowing eyes toward him. "And what about you, Riker? What do you want?" Riker stared at the stars, too. "I want to keep you alive." But the next morning, the world exploded. Again. News reports showed footage from a secret military base in Alaska. Burned buildings, dead bodies. The media said it was an alien attack. Riker's heart dropped. Zirak watched silently. "That's a lie." "Yeah," Riker whispered. "And they're blaming you." The voice message had been right. The real attack had begun. Riker opened a private secure line and called the one person he still trusted, his old war partner, Lena Dre. She answered fast. "Riker, they're setting it all up. You and the alien are the targets now. Orders just came down, terminate and contain." Riker's blood went cold. "They're going to kill him and call it justice." "Yes," Lena said. "And they'll make you the traitor." He looked at Zirak, standing calm but alone. No backup, no army. Just one alien trying to stop a war. Riker made his choice. He turned to Zirak. "We're leaving. Now." Zirak tilted his head. "If we run, they will say we are guilty." "If we stay," Riker said, loading his sidearm, "they kill you and start a war." Zirak looked into his eyes. Then he nodded. "Very well, Bodyguard. I trust you." Riker grabbed a stealth cloak and activated a secret escape tunnel built into the building's foundation. The alarms would trigger in 5 minutes. That's all the time they had. As they moved down the dark tunnel, Riker heard the distant sound of boots, military boots, rushing into the top floors. He whispered, "We're already late." Outside, a black van waited, engine running. Lena sat at the wheel. She looked at Zirak. "Didn't think I'd be driving an alien today." Riker climbed in. "Drive now. Talk later." As the van sped off into the night, above them, Earth's leaders made a decision they couldn't take back. They declared war. But they didn't know Riker had just crossed the line and he wasn't going back. A secret meeting at midnight rain fell hard on the city. The black van sped through empty roads, tires slicing through puddles. Inside, the air was heavy with silence. Jack Riker sat with his weapon on his lap, eyes fixed out the window. Beside him, Ambassador Zirak sat calmly, though his glowing blue skin flickered faintly. Signs of stress the Solari couldn't hide. Driving the van was Lena Dre, Riker's old partner. Her hands were steady, her jaw tight. She hadn't asked many questions, not yet. But she knew something big was happening. They had just gone from protectors to fugitives. At 1:03 a.m., they reached an old warehouse on the edge of the city, long, abandoned and buried under fake company names. Riker had set it up years ago, a place to disappear if he ever needed to. Inside, the power was still working. As soon as the door slammed shut, Riker locked every entrance. Then he turned to Lena. "Why did you help me?" Lena stared at him for a moment. "Because I've seen what the Council's really doing. They don't want peace, Jack. They want control. And killing Zirak gives them a reason to turn fear into power." Zirak nodded. "They need a villain. I was the easiest one to choose." Riker's jaw clenched. "Then we turn the game." He sat down at a steel table and pulled out a data core. Inside was encrypted footage from the failed assassination and records from a hidden military server. Things he wasn't supposed to. How he connected it to a holo projector. A blue image flickered to life. It showed a meeting. 7 men, 2 women. One of them was Director Marnies. Another wore a Solari officer's uniform. They were talking, laughing. "The ambassador is the key. Kill him quietly, we get the panic we need. Blame it on rebels. Earth citizens will beg for stronger walls, more weapons. And the Solari, what if they discover it was us? They won't. Not if we frame the humans protecting him." Riker turned off the feed. Silence. Even Zirak didn't speak for a while. Then Lena whispered, "They've been planning this for months." Riker stood. "Now they've made us the enemy, so we give them a real fight. But first, they needed allies." Riker activated a private encrypted channel and sent out a coded message. It was short. "Dangerous. Truth for peace. Midnight. Come alone." He sent it to 3 names, 1 reporter, 1 diplomat, 1 general. Each of them had once spoken against the war machine. Each of them had nearly lost everything for it. He didn't know if any would answer. At exactly midnight, footsteps echoed outside the warehouse. Riker checked his scanner. 3 life signs, all unarmed. He opened the door. First walked in Alina Morez, an old-world journalist who had been banned from major networks for exposing corruption. She looked older, but sharper than ever. "Still alive, Riker? That's new." Then came General Tom Vren, a retired Earth military leader. Riker had fought under him in the last alien border conflict. Vren didn't salute. He nodded once. That was enough. Finally, Cal Saros, a Solari advisor who had been dismissed by his own government for extreme honesty. He said nothing. Just walked to Zirak and gave a respectful bow. "You called," Alina said, folding her arms. "So show us something real." Riker played the holo footage again. This time he added 1 more file, a plan called Operation Unity Fire. The file outlined false flag attacks, fake alien signals, and a staged Earth defense response. All meant to make the people afraid. All meant to destroy peace. Zirak looked pale. Your counsel and mine. Together. Cal Saros nodded. They fear what peace brings. Shared power. General Vren tapped the table. So what's your plan, Riker? We can't storm the capital. Riker looked up. No, but we can show the world the truth, and we're going to do it on a broadcast no one can stop. Outside, thunder cracked. Inside, the group worked fast. Alina called old contacts at underground media hubs. Cal connected to Solari rebel networks still loyal to peace. Vren used secret military codes to shut down tracking signals. Lena kept watch. Zarak helped translate alien data, and Riker prepared the evidence. But then, a power surge. The lights flickered. A warning alarm screamed. Someone had found them. Drones dropped from the sky like black insects. Dozens. Armed. They're jamming. The exit, Lena shouted. Underground, Riker ordered. They ran. Explosions shook the roof as drones broke in. One wall collapsed. Dust filled the air. Cal got hit. Shoulder wound. Vren dragged him. Zarak grabbed the hard drive and followed Riker down a tunnel hidden under the floor. It led into the subway system, long dead, but still wide enough to vanish in. They ran into the dark, leaving the burning warehouse behind. Later, in silence, they sat in a dusty train car deep under the city. Zarak spoke first. They will not stop. Riker nodded. Then neither will we. He held up the data core. This is our weapon now. We show the people what their leaders are hiding. Zarak leaned forward. And if that fails? Riker looked at him. Then we burn it all down. The escape plan. The subway tunnel was quiet. Too quiet. Dust hung in the air like fog. Broken. Lights blinked overhead. Jack Riker stood at the edge of the train car, pulse rifle in hand, listening to the darkness. Behind him, Ambassador Zarak sat on the floor, hands pressed against his wound-covered chest plate. He wasn't bleeding. Solari didn't bleed like humans, but his skin was dimmer than before. They had lost contact with Lena, Vren, and the others after the ambush. Now it was just the two of them, and time was running out. 3 days ago, Riker had been a decorated protector. Now he was a traitor, a hunted man, a criminal in every system that mattered. But he wasn't backing down. Inside his coat was the data core, evidence of a conspiracy so deep it connected Earth's highest council and Solari warlords. They were manufacturing a war, selling fear, profiting off chaos, and they had nearly killed Zarak to make it happen. Now Riker had a plan, one last gamble. At exactly 3:12 a.m., he activated a beacon. A coded signal lit up underground relays, bouncing off hidden satellite nodes, reaching a small orbital ship floating in Earth's shadow. It was a forgotten patrol vessel, locked in stealth mode since the Mars Rebellion. Riker had hidden it there years ago, just in case today. Just in case had become now or never. The ship could get them off-world, if they could reach it. Are you sure this will work? Zarak asked, his voice faint but calm. Riker checked his weapon. No. Zarak gave a tired smile. That's comforting. They emerged from the tunnel at dawn. The city was waking up, but giant holoscreens showed Riker's face in red. Wanted for terrorism and alien collaboration. His name had become poison. His reputation, twisted, a lie to the world. But he had something stronger than a clean record. He had the truth, using underground routes and stolen ID tags. They made their way to the orbital elevator complex in the wastelands outside New Arizona. The station was officially shut down. Too expensive, they said. But Riker knew the real reason. It had a direct line to Earth's forgotten satellites, and the only access point to his hidden ship. But the closer they got, the more dangerous it became. Outside the old facility, automated defense turrets scanned the landscape. Drones patrolled the air, their red lights flashing like silent eyes. Riker watched their pattern for 30 minutes. Then he moved, step by step, shadow by shadow. He led Zarak through broken fences, over dusty rocks, under ancient steel supports. Then came the real test, the climb. To reach the docking core, they had to ride the elevator cable, a maintenance track with no power, no safety. Just wind, metal, and a 2-kilometer climb straight into the sky. Riker looked at Zirak. "You sure your species is okay with heights?" Zirak raised an eyebrow. "You're assuming I have a choice." Riker smiled. "You don't." They climbed. Every meter felt like a mile. Below them, searchlights began sweeping the base. Above them, storm clouds rolled in. Rain started again, cold and sharp. Halfway up, a drone spotted movement. Riker cursed. "We've been seen. Move!" Lasers fired, slicing metal just inches from them. Riker returned fire with one hand, gripping the rail with the other. Sparks flew. Drones spun and exploded, but one shot hit Zirak. He screamed, not in pain but in warning. Riker caught him just before he slipped. Hanging by one arm with Zirak's full weight pulling him down, Riker yelled into the wind, "You fall, we lose." Everything Zirak, bleeding energy, said nothing but held on. Somehow they made it. Inside the docking pod, Riker activated the system. Lights flickered. Consoles powered up. A voice spoke. "Docking clearance denied. Identity mismatch." Riker pulled a knife, opened his own palm, and pressed it to the scanner. Blood hit the pad. The psych system paused, then accepted. "Welcome back, Commander Riker." The ship unlocked. As they launched into orbit, Earth shrank behind them. But peace wasn't waiting out there. Orbit was filled with military satellites. Some had been offline for decades, but someone had turned them back on. 3 ships moved toward them. Earth security craft. Zirak looked at Riker. "They're going to shoot us down." Riker took the pilot seat. "Not if we shoot first." Zirak blinked. "I thought you said this ship was unarmed." I lied. He flipped 3 red switches. Hidden cannons emerged from the hull. The sky lit up. Explosions rocked the void. The first enemy ship went down fast. The second returned fire, damaging their engines. The third, it tried to board them. Riker met them at the airlock with full armor. No mercy. 10 minutes later, the ship floated dead. Riker, bloody but standing, sealed the breach and set course for deep orbit. Zirak, resting in the med bay, whispered, "We survived." Riker sat beside him. For now. Then his communicator beeped. A message. Voice only. It was Lena. "They're hunting me. Friend's dead. The Council just passed the War Act. You have maybe 2 days before they send everything. Fighters. Bombs. Kill switches. But I found something, a planet off the grid, broadcasting tech, old but powerful. If we can reach it, we can show the truth. It's called Myron's Fall. I'll send coordinates." Riker replied, "Send them. We'll meet you there." He turned to Zirak. "We have one chance left." Zirak's eyes burned brighter for a moment. "Then let's use it." The betrayal space was quiet, but not peaceful. The ship drifted through the black, lights dimmed, engines low to avoid detection. Inside, Jack Riker stood alone in the bridge, staring at the navigation screen. Coordinates blinked. Myron's Fall, a dead planet from a dead war, long erased from public maps. Now, it was their only hope. Behind him, Zirak rested in the med pod, recovering. His energy field was unstable. Every hour they delayed, his chances of survival dropped. But broadcasting the truth couldn't wait. If the public didn't see the data core before the war began, it wouldn't matter if Zirak lived or died. Earth and Solari would burn. Riker leaned forward. "Just hold on a little longer." Then, the warning light blinked red. A small ship approached from deep space. No ID. No signal. No known design. But Riker recognized the call sign. Lena. She was alive. The ship docked, airlock sealed. And Riker met her face to face again, for the first time since the ambush. She looked worn, covered in burns and bruises, but alive. Her weapon was holstered, her eyes scanning fast. "You weren't followed?" Riker asked. "Only by ghosts," she said. "Vren gave his life to get me out. We don't have time. She handed him a cracked drive. This has the coordinates to the broadcast tower on Myron's Fall. It was used during the border wars. Old tech, pre-firewall. If we patch in the core there, we can override both Earth and Solari networks for 2 minutes. 2 minutes? Riker asked. She nodded. That's all we'll get. After that, they'll wipe us off the map. He looked at the drive. Then we make every second count. Hours later, they entered Myron's orbit. The planet was a scar. Dry, red, broken by ancient craters and wreckage from long-forgotten wars. Skeletons of ships floated in the upper atmosphere. A storm twisted in the lower hemisphere, massive and slow. Zirak, now awake and pale, stood beside Riker in the bridge. I remember this place, he said quietly. It was once a colony of peace. Then it became a battlefield. Fitting, Riker said. We'll end their lies where they began. They dropped toward the surface, passing through static clouds and debris fields. The broadcast tower was still standing, half destroyed but operational. Its power core pulsed faintly. They landed half a mile out and moved on foot. Then came the storm. Sharp winds cut through their suits. Electric dust filled the air. Every step was a struggle. Riker led the way, Zirak behind him, Lena watching their flank. As they neared the tower, Lena slowed down. Her breathing changed. Her hands drifted too close to her sidearm. Riker noticed, but said nothing. Then, right as they reached the outer doors of the tower, she spoke. Stop. Riker froze. Zirak turned slowly. Lena raised her weapon. Not at the horizon, not at drones. At Riker. Put down the data core, she said. Riker didn't. Move. What are you doing? I'm sorry, Lena whispered. I didn't have a choice. They got to me. After Vren died, they found me. They gave me a deal. Deliver you, or die useless. Zirak stepped forward, but Riker held him back. You were the only one I trusted, Riker said. I know, Lena said, tears in her eyes. That's why it worked. She pressed a button on her wrist. A beacon blinked red. They'll be here in 5 minutes. You still have time to run. Leave, Zirak. Give me the core. You survive. Riker looked at her. Then he looked at Zirak, and slowly, he placed the data core on the ground. Lena stepped forward, hand shaking, but then Riker moved. Fast. He kicked the gun from her hand and tackled her to the ground. Zirak picked up the core and rushed toward the tower. A flash of light, distant ships entering the atmosphere. Riker held Lena down. You had a choice. You just made the wrong one. Tears streamed down her face. I wanted to believe in something again. Riker stood. Then watch us make it real. Zirak reached the console room. It was ancient, broken, but alive. He placed the core into the interface. The system buzzed. Lights came on. Core detected. Begin transmission? He pressed yes. A countdown began. 2 Gyasum. Outside, ships landed. Troops began to swarm. Riker grabbed a rifle and took cover near the tower's base. Buy me 2 minutes, Zirak shouted over comms. Buy you a damn hour if I have to, Riker said, locking in a fresh power cell. 30. Drones flew overhead. Lasers hit the rocks. Riker returned fire, shot down one, then another. He ducked, rolled, moved to better cover. Lena ran to help, grabbing a fallen rifle. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. 58. Inside the tower. Screens lit up across Earth and Solari worlds. A secret feed. Unstoppable. The footage began. The meeting. The plan. The betrayal. Truth. Unfiltered. 32. Outside, Riker was hit in the leg. Blood spilled. He kept firing. Zirak screamed over comms, "Hold on!" Riker grit his teeth. Not dying until they hear it all. 6. On Earth, people began to wake up. Millions, screens in homes, on streets, in command centers. We were told war was coming, but it was never war. It was profit. They lied, we paid, and only together can we stop it. Just under the feed cut, the tower exploded. Silence. Dust. Darkness. Hours later, rescue crews found the wreckage. They found the core, burnt. They found weapons, empty, but they did not find bodies, and on hundreds of worlds. The message lived. People questioned, protested, refused. War. The lie had been exposed. Far away in a ship hidden inside an asteroid belt, Riker limped to the med bay. Zirac waited inside. "They think we're dead," Riker said. Zirac nodded. "Let them think it." Riker sat, tired, bloody, but alive. "We gave them the truth." Zirac looked out at the stars. "Now we find the ones ready to fight for it." Truth revealed. War is a lie. The galaxy was quiet, for just a second. Then, it caught fire. The broadcast from Myron's fall tore across systems like a storm. 2 minutes of truth had done what 10 years of diplomacy could not. Footage of human. And Solari officials, laughing as they planned the ambassador's assassination, played on loop in the slums of Earth, in the floating cities of Sailor Prime, on pirate ships, in backwater colonies, and even on the private screens of the very people who once claimed control. The lie had broken. Now the people were awake and angry. On Earth, riots began outside the Global Union's main council dome. Crowds broke through barriers, throwing old flags into the fires. Civilians shouted names from the broadcast. Some held signs that read, "We want the alien alive," and "Where is Riker?" No one had seen Jack Riker or Ambassador Zirac since the tower fell. Official reports called them dead fugitives. Unofficially, they had become something else. Symbols. Far beyond Earth, inside a hidden asteroid base deep in the Venari belt, Jack Riker stood over a hologram table. His leg was healing slowly. His ribs still burned when he breathed, but his eyes burned hotter than ever. He looked at the glowing map of star systems. 4 more sectors have broken communication with the Alliance, said Lena, standing across from him. Solari rebels are starting to move too. Even there, old war fleets are waking up. Zirac entered, his skin still dim but his posture strong. "They saw the truth," he said. "Now we show them what to do with it." Riker turned to him. "I'm done running." They had gathered a crew, not an army, a resistance. Old soldiers, defecting agents, rogue pilots, data smugglers, and civilians ready to fight. Among them was Kane, a Solari ex-general stripped of his honor for refusing to follow wartime orders. Zia, a human comms expert who had once been jailed for truth leaks. And Milo, a boy no older than 16, whose father died in a council strike meant to silence protests. These weren't heroes. They were the broken pieces of a broken system. Exactly what Riker needed. But the council wasn't staying quiet. From a classified orbital facility called Red Line 1, Director Marnez watched the uprising grow. His face was calm, his voice colder than ice. "Let them speak," he told his inner circle. "Let them think they're winning. Then we cut the feed, cut their ships, cut their planet." They nodded. A plan was already in motion. It was called Project Silence, a full-spectrum blackout weapon. If activated, it could erase communication across 5 systems in a blink, sending entire colonies into darkness. And it was aimed directly at the Venari belt. Inside the asteroid base, Riker received a warning. A former military AI he had rebuilt picked up fragments of enemy chatter. He listened in silence, then turned to the crew. "They're going to shut us down. Everything. Total blackout." Lena frowned. "Then we hit first." Zirac stepped forward. "We still have the original, raw footage, and we still have allies inside the system." Riker's eyes narrowed. "We take Red Line 1. Everyone turned. "You mean, attack a classified black site floating over a red dwarf?" Riker nodded. "Exactly. The plan was suicide, but it was the only way. If they captured Red Line 1, they wouldn't just survive. They could use its systems to amplify the truth, force it into every corner of the galaxy, bypass every firewall, override every council-controlled channel. It would be like a second sun rising, made of data and defiance. And this time, no one could shut it off." The assault began in silence. Their stolen freighter approached Red Line 1 under an old civilian mining tag. Riker, Lena, Kane, and Zia entered through the docking shaft with stealth suits, cutting through guards without a sound. They reached the main control center. A single officer tried to sound the alarm. Riker stopped him. Zia plugged in the core. Inside, the surveillance room, thousands of feeds lit up. Proof of years of cover-ups, hidden prisons, shadow operations. They started the amplification sequence. Lights flickered across the base. Sirens howled. Too late. The signal had already launched. Every screen in every colony went black. Then one sentence appeared: "We were never the enemy." Then the broadcast began. Longer this time. Voices from inside the system, whistleblowers, victims, former council staff, alien peacekeepers, hidden camera files, secret trials, proof layered on proof, beam by beam, voice by voice. The systems burned, not with fire but with truth. People who had once cheered for war now stood silent. Some cried, some raised their fists, some started marching. In the chaos, Red Line 1 began to shake. Council warships had arrived. Riker stood on the deck as explosions rocked the outer shell. "Get out," he told the team. "Go now." "But what about you?" Lena asked. He stared at the control panel, hands steady. "I'll hold them off." Zirak stepped beside him. "Then I stay too." Riker shook his head. "You're more than just a symbol now. You're proof peace is possible. Get to the ship. Finish what we started." Zirak hesitated, then nodded, and left. Moments later, the council breached the base. Riker stood alone at the core. He looked up at the final feed being sent through the stars, then turned toward the door. "Gun ready. Voice calm. This is Jack Riker. You lied to your people. You tried to use me, but I'm still here. And now, everyone knows." Blinding white light filled the room. Gunfire. Then silence. Later, across the galaxy, rumors spread that Riker died holding the line, that Zirak lived, now leading a growing alliance of humans and Solari refusing to return to the chains, that every system where the feed reached had seen uprisings, that even the council was fracturing. No one knew where Riker's body was. But his final words were burned into a generation. Peace is not weakness, silence is not loyalty, and truth will always return. The line crossed, and the peace earned silence. That's how the final war began. No marching armies, no speeches, no missiles streaking across stars, just quiet, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Red Line 1 had fallen. The truth had gone viral. Jack Riker was presumed dead. Ambassador Zirak, once a target of every weapon in the system, now had the eyes and hopes of billions behind him. The council tried to deny it all. But people weren't listening anymore. Instead, they were preparing. Across Earth's megacities, humans ripped down government banners and replaced them with blank flags, symbols of reset. Across Solari colonies, citizens formed peace chains. Thousands linking arms across streets, silently blocking war convoys. They didn't need guns. They had something stronger, conviction, and yet, war still came. Not from the people, but from me. The system that refused to die. In orbit over Kepler's edge, the last of the Earth-Solari war fleets gathered. Dozens of battleships, hundreds of fighters, autonomous kill drones. Their purpose: wipe out the rebel cells, silence the broadcast towers, eliminate any trace of Riker or Zirak's resistance. The war was now rebranded, Operation Final Order, but the people who once obeyed now hesitated. On a hidden moon just outside the Edge system, Zirak stood before a makeshift command tent. His robes were gone, traded for light armor and a simple sash. This was no longer about diplomacy. This was survival. Zirak addressed a crowd of humans, Solari, and others. "I was supposed to be your guest," he said, voice calm but thunderous. "I was sent here to build bridges, and instead they built cages." He looked up toward the stars. They fear what happens when we see each other as equals. That is why they hunt us. Not because we are dangerous, but because together, we are free. Cheers rose, not of celebration, but of readiness. They weren't soldiers. They were mechanics, scientists, farmers, students. But they were ready. From above, the enemy moved in. Massive warships blotted out the light. Final order had arrived. Lena stood at the edge of the command deck inside the resistance ship Resolute. She watched the enemy fleet spread like a sickness across the stars. Outnumbered, she whispered. Outgunned. Outclassed. Zia responded from the console, but not out of time. A new signal appeared on the radar. One ship. Coming in, fast unknown signature. Not Council, not Rebel. But the ID pinged one name. J. Riker. Lena's heart stopped. She opened comms. "Aye, Jack?" A voice replied. Rough, tired but unmistakable. "Told you I wasn't done." The screen lit up. There he was. Scarred, bruised, but alive. Flashback. Red Line 1's core had self-destructed moments before the kill squad reached him. But Riker had found a hidden tunnel, an escape route left by old engineers during the war. He crawled through fire, debris, and radiation. He didn't die, because he couldn't. There was still a line left to cross. Back in the present, Riker's ship shot through enemy lines, sending out a signal-jamming wave that blinded Council sensors. The Resistance fleet launched. It wasn't a traditional fleet. Half of them were retrofitted cargo ships, others were stolen mining vessels, converted into weapons. One was a transport rig with massive speakers, still playing the Truth broadcast, on loop. It wasn't elegant, but it was enough. The final battle was chaos. Council ships fired on everything that moved. Riker boarded one of the lead dreadnoughts alone, moving like a ghost through their halls, disabling the control AI from the inside. He left explosive charges behind. Lena led a squad through a debris field, using a dead asteroid as cover to blindside an entire fleet wing. Zirak piloted a ground carrier, delivering wounded from the front lines, one hand on the controls, the other stabilizing a young fighter. Zia shut down orbital satellite cannons using pure code, rewiring Earth's oldest systems to turn on their masters. And then, the spark. Inside the Council flagship, a commander paused. He looked at the footage, playing on every monitor, the war crimes, the betrayals, the silenced voices, and he ordered his crew to stand down. One by one, ships powered down. Lights dimmed, weapons went cold, not because they lost, but because they finally understood. When it was over, no victory was declared, no fireworks, no anthem, just quiet again. But this time it was peace, earned, not given. Months later, a new council was formed, one made of both humans and Solari, and others who had never before had a voice. No leader, only listeners. They named it the Unity Assembly. Riker stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking a green valley on Sealer Prime. Children played below, some human, some Solari. No one seemed to care which was which. Zirak walked beside him. "You broke every law to save me," Zirak said. Riker replied, "I didn't save you. I saved what you stood for." Zirak smiled. "Then I hope I'm still worth it." "You are," Riker said. "We both are." A small boy ran up to them. Human, missing a front tooth, grinning wide. "Are you Jack Riker?" he asked. Riker knelt. "I used to be." The boy laughed. "My dad says you ended a war." Riker smiled. "No," he said softly. "I helped us remember we didn't need one.